Welcome to the Aiki Dojo Podcast. I am David Ito, Chief Instructor of the Aikido Center of Los Angeles. And with me is
Bill D'Angelo, also of the Aikido Center of Los Angeles. What practices or disciplines complement Aikido training?
Do you mean like other martial arts?
Could be. It could be something unrelated. It could be like meditation. It could be other physical practices that are not martial arts. So I think it's pretty broad. I mean, I think this is a wide ranger.
I mean, are you asking about cross training?
In my mind, I think the question is there something outside of Aikido that you can do that improves your Aikido? I think that's what I mean by complement. Something that, like, whatever that other skill set is, it leverages up your Aikido training.
I don't know. I was talking to Watanabe Shihan about this before the podcast. He couldn't make it. And he made a really good point. He says, Aikido is the art which complements all others. So you don't use other arts to complement Aikido. You use Aikido to complement other arts.
So you're flipping it around.
Well, no, yeah. I mean, you could think of it as flipping around, but it's this idea that should you study other disciplines or other martial arts? Should a Aikido student or teacher do other arts, other disciplines?
I think traditionally the answer is no, because you don't want to make water muddy, I think. But I guess my direct experience here is that Iaido and Aikido and swordsmanship training are complementary for a lot of different reasons. So I guess, is it a question of should you do it or not do it? It's like, are there any that make sense? Because certainly, our teacher thought that it made sense to combine. He didn't say they were the same, or even that they were. I mean, I remember Free Sensei used to say, that Iaido's Iaido and Aikido's Aikido, but we still did both.
Well, I think my answer is more yes and no.
Yes and no.
It depends. It depends on where you want to go.
Okay.
I'm a purist. I'm a traditionalist. So I only do Aikido. I did Iaido.
Right.
I do yoga, and I do meditate. And I think that meditation, yoga, swordsmanship are the only things that I have found which complement Aikido.
What do you think all those things have in common?
Well, yoga, you're really learning, this mindfulness, but you're also learning, how to use your body.
How you connect to your body in a way that if you haven't done yoga, you wouldn't necessarily have that connection.
Right. And then, it gives you this awareness. I mean, mindfulness is the thing that you're really trying to get from all those arts, Aikido, Iaido, swordsmanship, yoga, meditation is just mindfulness. But when we think about this idea that what complements Aikido is a completely different martial art. So on a certain level, nothing complements Aikido.
Right.
But as Watanabe Shihan said, that Aikido is a very good complement for other martial arts.
Why do you think he said that?
Well, because, they say that Aikido is like postgraduate work, and that you're getting a PhD in how to move and how to be calm and how to breathe and all these things that you don't get maybe with most traditional arts.
Because they don't get to that point. No way.
Yeah, because you're by the time you get to that point, you're too broken up or too old to do it. You just quit. But I mean, when I say yes, and the yes is prefaced with, where do you want to go? Are you looking for effectiveness? What are you looking for? If you're looking just to gather different fight styles, then yeah, you could do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Krav Maga, Muay Thai, and all those things. But if you're not looking for that, then for me, I'm a purist or I'm a traditionalist. The reason why I don't study other martial arts, not because I don't want to, is because my job is to disseminate this art to the next generation as close to Free Sensei did for me.
At the highest level.
And I can't do that if I've mixed in a little bit of BJJ or Muay Thai or Taekwondo and all these things, because I have to try to give the next generation the closest product to the one that I got.
And you're a professional, which most people are not. But you also, I think, we've known each other for a long time. I know before I met you when you were younger, especially as a little boy, you did kendo and you boxed.
Right.
So you had, in a way, like when we talk about like Aikido being the graduate school of martial arts, we weren't around when Sensei was putting this all together, and people had training in multiple disciplines. So they came with timing, spacing, knowing how to attack, knowing how to fall. And most of us as boys did some form of other martial art, usually growing up. Like I did wrestling and judo, you did boxing and kendo. Do you think that those earlier practices in a way were accretive for your foundation or not?
I don't know. I don't think so. I come from a long line of dancers,
Yeah.
professional dancers. And so you have that in your DNA, my genetic code already.
Which is also about body control, mental stability.
But this idea that where do you want to go? What do you want? Do you want the calmness and centeredness of Aikido? Then you only can do Aikido. If you want it to be like this killing art, then you're going to add in a snap kick, crescent kick in there, and all those things. Then like you're moving in a certain direction, and with which you want to train. So it all depends. Like I don't think that you should, not because other martial arts are bad or good, it's time.
Right. You only have so much time to perfect.
Yeah. And then you're going to put all this time into your Aikido training, and then you're going to muddy the waters with Taekwondo or BJJ or anything like that. Like that's the hard part of it. But if it depends on where you want to go. If you're going to be a teacher, then you shouldn't. But if you want to be a street fighter and you want to be completely effective, maybe you should.
Yeah.
So
well, I think one of the things that interests me, because you and I talk about this all the time, we talk about other martial arts. We look at techniques, we compare them. I think of someone who's like kind of a intellectual role model for me in martial arts, like Don Draeger, who it seemed like in his practice, he was studying these things to understand like the entire Japanese martial arts culture, which I thought was really interesting. And some of his books are pretty cool. But then, I think that like my own background in undergrad and grad school academically is in a different culture that had a really strong competitive fight culture. And I find that super interesting. I did wrestling when I was younger. And I do think that what I see as the complementary nature of this is the body only works in certain ways, right? You can only push, pull, not bend, bends. And what I find really fascinating about this with Aikido is like the older I get, like the more I see the connection. Like one of the things you and I had talked about over and over again is Tenkan exercise. And I was never a high level Western wrestler, but like there's motions that are similar to that in terms of like an arm drag and taking the back or whatever it is. And those exercises are practiced with a certain crispness. So it isn't so much that I want to mix the technique, but I'm inspired by the way some other martial arts do things that have the same purpose. And we don't always see that. And to me, like when I look at a technique on a video, I'm trying to figure out like, how do I steal that from my Aikido? Not muddy the waters, but more the intellect, more the mental intensity. Because I think sometimes in any martial art, especially if you're doing like the warm-ups, people get lazy and they kind of just go through the motions. Not everybody, but me too. I do it. And I always try to tell myself, like, what am I missing? What don't I understand?
But what you're talking about is stealing some aspect. We're not talking about studying it, getting good at it.
No. Yeah.
That's true. I don't think it's like we're not talking they say all martial arts lead to the top, the same summit.
Yeah.
Right. And that when you're studying, like I was watching Karate Kid Legends, and Ralph Macchio, Daniel-san, did this move that looked exactly like Kodoyashi. And he was like, this is high level karate. And then Jackie Chan did something similar too. And he goes, this is high level Kung Fu. Yeah. That looked like a lot like Aikido. So, but it's like, we're talking about the aspects of delving into, or are we? Are we talking about people studying them or stealing things from them?
Well, I think you could do either or both.
Well, but that's an easy.
I think of stealing. That's how I look at it. I'm like, oh, like I like the way that person is really crisp about entering there. Like they make that really obvious as very important martially. And you're like, well, Aikido does that. how do I steal the mental acuity of that from my Aikido training? That's how I look at it.
Where are you hoping to go with?
To get better at Aikido.
Right. So then getting better at Aikido, as you get older, the physicalness of the movement has to drop away. So you have to say, oh, okay, well, then this is what I'm, right. And that's why at the highest levels of swordsmanship and Aikido, it's all mental.
Yeah.
So you spend all this time learning to calm down, learning to breathe properly.
Right.
And then hopefully you've developed a certain level of body movement awareness,
Kinesthetic.
proprioception and all that stuff, to where you can do things to your partner that you wouldn't be able to do if you were just cranking their wrist.
Right.
And so that's the hard part about, as we try to find something which complements Aikido, it's really, there is no complement because it's just more Aikido.
Right.
Like if you ask Free Sensei, how do I get better? He would say more Aikido.
Right. Do more.
How do I get better at Koshinage? Do more.
Right.
Right. Like you have to keep doing it and doing it and doing it until you go, oh, there's a thing there. And then you can be inspired by this wrestling video you saw, this Shotokan teacher doing this other thing. But it's that, what do you really, you're looking for clarity.
Right.
Right. Clarity of purpose, clarity of execution. And then when you watch it, you go, oh, I see.
Right. You understand.
But you got to be a student of the game. If you're not a student of the game, you go, hey, that's cool when that guy threw that guy down. Huh? Yeah, it was.
Right. Well, I know one of the things I was thinking about for this topic today that I know that you instituted at the dojo back in the day, maybe 10 years ago, before the pandemic, but right after Free Sensei had passed, was we had, I think he was a black belt, Jake, who came in on Saturdays, would do like a 2-hour, maybe once or twice a month. He'd do like a 2-hour meditation. And I remember the first time I went, I could barely sit the 2 hours. And later on, I thought, why am I can do Aikido for 2 hours. Why can't I do meditation for 2 hours? And I would try to think like, well, why did you bring that into our practice? And I think, it was interesting because I realized that maybe my mind control level was low.
Yeah, because you have physical discipline, but not real mind control.
Exactly.
And that's where, that's why I was saying, like, if you, at the highest level of swordsmanship, at the highest level of Aikido, it's all mental.
Right.
And so you spend all this time trying to control your mind, not that you can like put handcuffs on it. Because really, honestly, the thing that you're trying to do is try to become transparent.
What do you mean by that? Like that your intent is clear or that you're obvious? I'm not sure I understand what that means.
Well, see, like you think about this idea of self-esteem versus self-compassion.
Okay.
Self-esteem is the walls that you build up to make yourself feel good. But when the Huns come and tear down your wall, you fall apart. You got to go to a desert island, lick your wounds, do the Rocky, workout, the training montage, and then you're going to come back and your self-esteem is intact again. Self-compassion is that the wall is cracking and you're fixing it as it breaks. So with the walls cracking, you're like, I'm not a bad person. I do the best that I can. I'm working on it. And then you're giving yourself compassion to build the wall as it's breaking. So see, there's these two ideas and so when you lay that against this idea of your mind, the thing that every martial artist, every person in this world is searching for is contentment. But the thing is that contentment doesn't happen in a vacuum, right? It happens out in the world. And so you're sitting here, a person says something really mean to you, you have to let it pass through you. You can't, self-esteem is that you block it out. No, I didn't hear it. No, I didn't hear it. You block it out. Self-compassion is that you let it pass through you.
You acknowledge it.
You acknowledge it, you become transparent and it passes through you, and that you're trying to get to this place where it's not that nothing bothers you. It's that nothing bothers you longer than it's supposed to bother you, right? Your mom dies, there's a certain level of time that you should grieve.
Right.
But
when you reset.
But the reset, there's a cycle. So it resets in the cycle. But what happens is that your parent dies and the grieving lasts the whole rest of your life. And that when you're trying to get to this place of contentment, it's not that you build up the wall so it can't come in. It's that you allow it to come in, but you don't allow yourself to hold on to it. And so that's why the only things that really complement Aikido are yoga and meditation. So in the meditation, you're learning this mind awareness. In this yoga, the mind is paired with the body, right? So you learn how to ground your nervous system. You learn how to do these things. And then in the meditation, when you're sitting there meditating, the one thing that there's only one thing that's real.
Yourself? No?
The breath.
You're breathing.
Everything else is a construct of your mind, but the only thing that's physical is the rise and fall of your breath or the sensation you feel in your body from the breathing or your awareness.
Like your heartbeat, maybe.
Not even the heartbeat. Really? It's very hard as a meditator to feel your own heartbeat.
Really?
Yeah.
I just thought of it. It's not, that isn't from some past experience. I know that when I've tried to meditate in the past, and I don't really do it as a discipline, but I struggle with my body. That's what I'm saying. When Jake was teaching,
it's physically hurting.
Yeah, my back is not in alignment, or where my hip hurts, and I'm staying in one posture, right? So whether you're doing it cross-legged or seiza, there's a certain point where if there's physical pain.
Well, and that's where they say the emotions, they reside in your soft tissue.
Yeah.
So when you're sitting there and you're not moving, and then
it hurts.
You're quieting your mind, those things come to the surface, and then that's why you feel them in your joints.
Is that why you would say, I think you've done this, and a few of the senior students here have gone to these meditation retreats, like the quiet retreat, right? That lasts a couple of days, and you say, if an Aikido person can go to that kind of retreat, be quiet for a couple of days or a week or whatever it is, that's almost a whole nother level of black belt, just from something like that.
I pretty much almost give people a black belt
if they do that,
if they go through it.
Yeah.
Because the rest is just body control. So if we're thinking about body control and all these different things, and that's where if you study striking arts, Muay Thai, kickboxing, Shotokan, and all these different things, you're really learning to hurt others, right? And so that level of aggressiveness. So that's why they don't really pair well with Aikido. Aikido, you're trying to learn how to give compassion, not butt kickings. And so here you are trying to learn, for lack of a better term, the art of peace. Peace is you, the inner peace is inside of you. And then you're also teaching yourself how to kick people in the nuts, right? So see how the whole of all the Aikido techniques are metaphoric. And so they're teaching you these ideas of learning how to be compassionate, to yield, and all these different things. But at the same time, you're also learning how to poke someone's eye out. See, it doesn't really make sense.
Yeah.
And so, and it's a process. Most people come into martial arts to fight. Okay, great. And then after you learn how to fight, you go, oh,
where do you go from there?
I don't want to fight anybody anymore. I don't want to hurt people. Okay, so then what do I do now? So, it's not that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or Muay Thai or Taekwondo or any of those things do or don't complement Aikido. They do at the highest level.
Right.
But to get to that level, you're going to have to drop back into aggressiveness.
And then you're struggling with that mindset. Yeah.
Yeah, because you can't turn it on, turn it off, turn it on, turn it. Today I'm compassionate, tomorrow I'm not.
I think that's super interesting because when I look at other martial arts, again, as I said earlier, I see the body moves one way, doesn't move more than the way that it can move. Technique, there's crossover in techniques, but what you're talking about is something I think is the harder thing, which is how, depending on which martial art you do or other discipline, you're not a martial artist, when you do something else, that there are mindsets, and the mindsets are the hard thing to switch in and out of, right? That's what I think you're saying.
Yeah, because what's the number one skill the street fighter has? Aggression, meanness, the ability to be mean. That you will take it to the place where this person just won't. Right? There's a well-known famous video of this Navy SEAL talking about levels of engagement. and he said, you can't be at 4 and then your opponent's at 5, you'll lose.
Right.
So that's why you got to go all the way to 10. Right.
Non-aggression. Yeah. Or mental commitment.
Commitment, meanness, toughness, aggression, where that person can't go farther than you're going. And then here you are sitting there going like, what? Like, and then you're trying to learn how to harmonize, yield, blend, or whatever you want to call it in Aikido. How are you going to do that?
But don't most people in Aikido, I think in any martial art, people go through a cycle of mental states, right? I mean, you're in like learn mode. You're trying to catch up. And then at some point you get somewhat competent. You might go through an aggressive mental stage and then maybe that goes away. But
yeah, that's the natural process.
Yeah.
But if you're doing Aikido, which is designed to be more compassionate, but you're doing, Muay Thai, which is designed to destroy other people. See, like the mindsets are incongruent. As they say, you can only supposedly hold one thought in your mind at a time.
Right.
So which is the thought? And then you go, I'll just do it a little bit.
No, in our Aikido training, because I always felt this myself, that when you're training, you kind of want the uke to give you some energy so you have something to work with. So it is in the practice of Aikido, when we're the ukes and we're doing the attack, what mindset should the uke have?
Well, no, the uke is forcing you to
negotiate.
Well, not negotiate, but like, okay, so like, I don't know how to explain it. So like when you meditate, right? One of the things that you find, hopefully, is that you unnaturally hold your breath.
Yeah.
So the moment your mind starts to think about things, your mind micro holds your breath. And then when you hold that breath, that's where you're like sitting there thinking, and then you go, that's you're taking a deep breath because you were just holding your breath. So when you're meditating, I'm going to go to the top of this mountain and meditate where all you hear is birds chirping. While you're sitting there doing that, nothing ever other than your mind comes in from the outside to mess up your mental state.
Right.
But when you're meditating at home, honk, honk, you hear people yelling outside, that moment, it disturbs your inner peace, and then you hold your breath. So then you spend all this time learning to just breathe, relax your tongue, breathe, and then you hear someone outside your door, and it doesn't automatically
stop you,
activate you.
Right. And
then you try to continue to do that, and then you try to take that in the regular world where the person cuts you off, it doesn't activate you.
Is there like I knew this? It wasn't a Aikidoist, but he was a Chinese martial artist guy I knew a long time ago, and he used to meditate really early in the morning. Like I would even call it morning. He would start like 3:30 or 4.
Really, really late at night.
Yeah, like for me, that's really late at night. But for him, it was like, look, I try to get up, start very, very early, and would meditate like right through sunrise. And like I said, he wasn't an Aikidoist, but I remember him telling me about like, capturing the energy of the day as it starts.
That's Sensei's method too.
Is that Sensei's method?
The energy is the purest and strongest in the earliest part of the morning. Well, yeah, I mean, if that's what you believe.
Right.
But if every little thing causes you to hold your breath,
it won't matter.
It don't matter. That you could be sitting right next to the spring of life, and you still can't take it in because your nervous system is too shot.
Yeah. Wasn't the famous swordsman Yamaoka Teshu also a big meditation? Got it.
Yeah, because
he died in meditation, I think.
Did he? I don't know.
He did.
But that's this whole idea of what complements your art.
Right.
Body, as my brother would say, when I was in Thailand, I saw that they taught an elephant how to ride a motorcycle. You could teach anything to anyone that's physical. Right. Within the limitations of dunking a basketball, you could teach anybody just about anything physical. But then now you're telling them to learn how to manage their mind. And then you spend all this time managing your mind and thinking, and then someone just goes, "Hey, jerk," and then your nervous system goes into activation, right, into the sympathetic nervous system, and that's where you're trying to get to, where there's no, if they hooked you up to some type of EKG Holter monitor or something like that,
level.
It's level. That person screams in your face, does all that stuff, and nothing from the outside comes in. But that's the thing. everything comes in.
Right.
There's no way to stop it.
It's how you respond.
It's how you respond. And so that's where self-compassion versus self-esteem, the self-compassion is that you go, okay, well, that's, if it's like if I was telling you something like, look here, shorty.
Yeah.
And then I started yelling at you, making fun of you about being short. And you're like,
Your emotion chokes you up.
what are you saying? And then you go, oh, wait, I'm much taller than him. Oh, shoot. Like, oh, but you're allowing it to come in. And that's where, if I were to say that, you'd be like, what? Or if I said, how dare you live in Chicago? And you're like, I live in Newport Beach.
Right.
And then see, it wouldn't activate your nervous system. But what happens is that we let every little thing, hey, shorty, who you calling shorty? I mean, I'm 6'8". Why is he calling me shorty?
I noticed it in my own, as an attorney and as a business consultant, like, I feel like many of my days are these emotions, like it's the intellectual problems are pretty solvable, but I find the thing that I struggle with myself and with other people is emotional dysregulation during conflict during the day.
And that's where you're trying to use your Aikido training or swordsmanship training or meditation training to not allow yourself to become activated.
Right.
And then, I don't know what they say, it takes 12 minutes to recover your focus after you've been, so that's why multitasking is not
terrible. It's terrible.
So you would spend all this time meditating or doing Aikido or whatever it is to make sure that your nervous system state isn't reachable. But that's the thing. You can either build a wall around it, or you can learn how to fix the wall as it's breaking. And that's where self-compassion versus self-esteem comes in.
So where when you teach an Aikido class, where do you think, or if this is at all, does Aikido training, like at our school, develop that emotional, mental control, open-mindedness during practice? Or
no, we're talking about, again, high level, very, way far less esoteric.
Almost esoteric.
But that's the thing, is that you got to get through all these levels. So at the beginning, you're like, is Aikido effective? I don't know. Aikido might be fake. And then you go, well, I'm going to do some Krav Maga,
right,
just in case, to hedge my bet. And then your Aikido can't really improve because there's too much Taekwondo or Krav Maga in there. Right. And that's where I stopped hitting the punching bag. I mean, I used to hit it all the time as part of my workout.
Right.
But I'm trying my best to remove the desire to fight from my psyche. Right. And you go, people watch this. Oh, yeah, but you do Aikido. Aikido is a real martial art. I don't even know why you watch this podcast if you don't believe in Aikido. But it's just this idea that, if I allow aggressiveness to hold space in my mind, then there might be a time where my mind accidentally steps into it and I have to activate that. So you're trying to meditate. You're trying to do something which forces you to deal with that. And that's why you can do Taekwondo or Krav Maga or BJJ in addition to Aikido, but it depends on where you are and where you want to go.
What do you want to do with it?
Let's say you're already at that level where nothing bothers you. Yeah, you can do Taekwondo. You can do Krav Maga.
That would be interesting.
Yeah, but for me, I'm not. For me, I'm regularly like, who wants to go? Who wants to fight? Oh, I got to stop doing that. I've been doing Aikido for 35 years. And so at what point am I going to give up these childish ways of trying to fight people?
But that's a very high level concern.
Well, that's my level, right? That's my levels to try to understand that. So I get it when people want to pair Aikido with BJJ, but they're just falling prey to the fear. Oh my gosh.
When I look at BJJ, I've never done it. But I think to myself, it's really started as like the Newaza Judo, which was part of Newaza of other jujitsus before Jigoro Kano. Like, there's this interesting continuity. But I think the way BJJ is presented to our culture today is like, oh, it's the only solution. It's the only way to understand aggression. And it's a social media phenomenon. And so that part of it doesn't interest me as much. But there's one thing you're saying, which as I watch a lot of martial arts video of all different kinds, but the one that I watch the most of is Aikido. And one of the things that I noticed that I think goes directly to what you're saying mentally is someone does a blending, like Koki throw, where like the person's coming through you blend and keep them going, right? Kind of like a basic. And a lot of the time I notice the person's moving and the person doing the technique, as they're getting into the technique, they stop that person's motion. And then they try to throw them. And people say, oh, that's fake. I don't think it's because Aikido's fake, but I think like if you stop the person in a flow throw and then try to make them move again, well, then that's not going to work. And I think what you're talking about is the mental version of that. Like if your mind is open, is not subject to emotional dysregulation or intervention, then the movements might be easier. Maybe that's an overstatement.
No, it's not wrong. If you look at a lot of old Aikidoists, famous Aikidoists, the place that they all end up going is where?
Well, they don't move their feet.
No, they go to no touch.
Oh,
Well, I use a key to throw you down,
right.
right? And why? They're just looking for some other way to be effective.
Right.
Supposedly, and I don't know how true this is that our minds create this construct where, I don't know how to explain this, where gravity does not exist. So then when a person comes up and grabs you, they don't fall down. But when you get to a high level, you go, oh, gravity exists. And then you do something and they just fall down. When you look at all these people that do like key exercises in Aikido, the reason why I think it's fake is that you ever been shocked?
Oh, sure.
You ever touch 110?
Yeah.
You touch 110, you go, bzz, your hand goes, oh, yeah. Right? You've never been shocked with anything higher than 110.
No.
Like, like that, you'd be dead.
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely done the stupid kid thing where you put like a fork in the shot and yeah, I've had that at least once.
So, but then if you ever watch a video of someone getting shot,
like really hard,
two things happen.
Their body spasms.
Their body spasms and they blow away, or they get stuck. And then it's stuck. So if we say that ki is energy, the definition of ki is energy on the verge of becoming matter and matter on the verge of becoming energy. Right? So if it's energy, if it's electric, and a person touches you, why would you turn and then do a full roll away? So see how like your ability to
contrive,
your ability to turn your forward roll away. If you get shocked with 220, I don't see anybody doing full rolls.
Yeah,
they either blow back, right, or they get stuck there, freeze, and they die. And so, and if you say, well, ki energy is not quite 220, okay, so it's 110. And then your hand goes, and then your hand immediately disengages.
People are going to respond to that and say you're getting mystical.
I just don't know. But I'm just saying, if you try to understand. So then when you think about yourself, what's the complement? The complement is not being more effective. The complement is teaching yourself a way to calm your mind. As you get older, everything falls apart, including your mind.
Yeah. More in some cases, that's the thing that falls apart the most.
Yeah.
Is your mind, even more than your body.
So then what's your Krav Maga nut grab or your BJJ choke going to do? Nothing, right? Because you got to be able to control your mind. You got to be able to control your senses. The other day, Mike does these pistol classes,
right?
And they have this like legal seminar for people who use firearms.
Right. So like the legal use of a firearm.
The people that showed up for this class were so infirm. I was like, oh my God.
Like couldn't pull and shoot.
No way. One guy was he had to use a walker to get to the bathroom and he was shaking. And I'm like, this guy's strapped?
Yeah.
He's got a gun? Oh my God. But that's the thing, the force equalizer, right? A weapon is a force equalizer. You're trying to become more effective, right? But that's the thing, is your job as you get older or to become more experienced in martial arts is not to become a lethal weapon. It's that your mind becomes lethal. But your mind becomes lethal because nothing can affect it.
So if so many really high-level martial artists, whether you are a teacher or even famous people like Yamamoto Tesshu, really integrated meditation. But that's kind of a collateral thing that Aikidoists or other martial artists do. Like it's not part of we don't have a meditation class.
No, because that's not it's it would be nice if Steven or Alexis did that, but we can't.
It's just more. We're already trying to get people to come to class.
Yeah, the one thing I was thinking about doing is getting a certification in yoga, because as you get older, you're going to need that yoga to balance out
The broken parts.
the broken parts of your body that Aikido may not be able to do. I don't know this time.
But isn't I mean, you've told me about this before. Is it Suganuma Sensei?
Yeah,
Who's at Ziggy? He said he really does a lot of yoga, right?
Yeah.
Does he talk about it? I mean, I haven't.
I don't know. You'd have to see if he's got interviews out there, but that's the thing, is that if you're going to learn, I don't know, Yadi, spear, to improve your Aikido, you might be able to do that, right? But if you're doing Yadi and like killing people in the street, that's not going to help your Aikido.
Yeah.
But I mean, do you need something to help your Aikido? Yes and no. I mean, I meditate because after having this last concussion, I have anxiety. So that's why I meditate. But if you don't have a concussion, you don't have some type of learning disability or mental problem, maybe
Maybe you don't need.
maybe meditation not for you. But you're trying to learn how to harness your mind. I mean, Aikido technique, like one time I was at the seminar and I went to dinner with the person who organized the seminar, and he was one of the teachers. He outranks me at that time by like 2 or 3 ranks. And he goes, "Hey, what was the hardest technique in the seminar?"
What do you say?
I said, "Oh, nothing. It was easy." He goes, "Easy?" And I said, "Yeah." I said,
You mean physically easy?
I said, "For me, it's all mental."
Yeah.
I said, "I'm just trying not to lose my temper." And then he got upset.
Really? You got mad?
And it didn't talk for like almost the rest of the dinner because he was upset, because he wanted me to say, "Oh, you're Kodagaishi. Oh, this, well, that guy." But it's not. It's just physical movement. For me, the whole time I do Aikido is trying not to lose my temper.
Yeah.
And then, so for me, it's like all mental. So it's like you're trying to ask yourself, like, what complements Aikido? Like body control and awareness and grounding yourself of yoga is really probably the only thing.
Yeah.
Weightlifting does not help Aikido. I don't know what else you could do with, like, BJJ.
What about just cardio, running?
No, like cardio definitely does, because it helps you because it doesn't help
You get dogged out.
Well, that's the funny thing, is that if you do cardio and you come in Aikido, you're going to get dogged out. But if you do Aikido and then add in cardio, that helps you.
You mean doing the cardio after that?
No. Like if you never did Aikido ever,
I see.
and then you go, "I run marathons," and then you come and do Aikido, you'll get dogged out. You'll get fatigued because it's not the same thing. But if you do Aikido and then you run, it helps really make your heart more efficient, your breathing, respiratory system, all that stuff more efficient. So then you're able to use that running in your Aikido training.
I mean, because most competitive martial arts, whether it's boxers do a lot of cardio. They do a lot of cardio. I guess it's a 12th round. You need to have a huge base, right?
Yeah. Or what ends up happening? Gassing out at the 3rd round.
Yeah.
Your arms are punched out. Those are sports. So if you think, what does every martial artist and sports person need? They need a strong mind. They need to be able to push through the pain. They need to be able to persevere. They need to regulate their nervous system. So see, like, again, how it's all your mind.
But like, I mean, I'm thinking like running or cycling or swimming, having, but even those activities are kind of painful. Like aerobic activity, if you push it, it's painful. Your body responds. It's on the edge between aerobic and anaerobic, and it doesn't feel good. Do you think, like, besides just not getting dogged out in class, does that contribute to mental toughness?
No, but it does. But think about this idea that when you're cycling or you're running, what's the one thing that's not there that is there in martial arts?
An opponent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A guy's trying to hit you, squeeze your neck, tell you, hurt you, do something to you, and that your arm choke you out. You got to negotiate that. Right. And so.
And that's an emotional thing, right? And most people, isn't it like Mike Tyson says, everyone has a great plan until they get punched in the face?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the thing, is that, see, again, it goes back to it being mental. And so when you're trying to make your Aikido better, you go, well, let's just say you're trying to become a high level Aikidoist, but the problem that you have is that it's not competitive. It's no, um, you know, pressure testing in Aikido. But in the old days, what we would do is that we have to do a lot of demonstrations. And that was the pressure testing.
Right. That's what built up the mental, the dealing with conflict, stress, high adrenaline.
Fear in front of a group of people that are maybe going to say something or laugh if you do something
that
poorly.
Yeah.
Right. And so you have to think,
demos are good.
Yeah, demonstrations are great. So that,
and then I guess you'd add testing in there too.
You could add testing in there, and so that's the hard part is that you go, well, IQ is it's not pressure tested. It's not combat ready. Combat what, man? You're like a lawyer. You're like a venture capitalist or something. Like what are you combating? But
other people, even if it's not physical, you often have conflict with people.
Well, but why do we want effectiveness and the ability to manage physical conflict?
You want to survive. Want to win.
It's primal.
Yeah,
it's primal. That animal or person, that Neanderthal comes into your cave. There's no, excuse me, what's your, you should try to talk to I'll call the authorities, sir. No, in the old days, there's none of that, right? You'd have to brutalize them in order to not, it was kill or be killed. But we're talking about this idea of how to evolve as a human being.
Yeah.
So if I do Aikido and I have to add in BJJ or Krav Maga or Taekwondo to make it more real, more combat effective, I'm de-evolving myself. But what I'm trying to learn is, I'm not fighting anybody right now. I'm too old for that. I'm trying to get to a place where I just don't get upset when kids are sitting, like yesterday we went to the movies, me and my son, and it was pretty crowded and people were sitting in our seats. So we just
see 20 years later.
No, we just went to see Karate Kid Legends.
Okay.
And some kids were sitting in our seat. So we just sat in a different seat.
Right.
And then when our food came, they gave it to those people. And I had to go over there and get our food. And then when we're sitting there eating it, the people who had our seats that we're sitting in showed up. So we had to move again. And you're just like, I'm about to flip out here, right? And then you go, you have to you're trying to get to a place where you go, it's not quite big a deal. It's just moving seats. No one got hurt. Let's see, self-compassion. Not a big deal. No one got hurt. You don't have to get upset. It's okay.
Yeah.
That's all self-compassion. But if they came in and they demanded their seats and people laughed and then all this stuff happened and our food fell on the ground and then my self-esteem breaks, I flip out
and you're in a fight,
getting into a fight. Then I got to go to jail, lick my wounds, build up my self-esteem again, and then come out. See how self-esteem versus self-compassion? You don't really need that. I don't need to be more effective as a martial artist. I'm already effective enough. What I need to do is learn how to master my mind, my emotions.
I mean, I think this is one of the biggest topics in martial arts training. I mean, I always think, as I said earlier today, I always think of emotional regulation, emotional dysregulation. And if you're in a high conflict job, it doesn't have to be physically conflictual, but if you're constantly fighting over market share, or you're trying to exceed the guy who's your co-VP, you want to be president, there's a lot of competition. But I also think, as you were saying, well, in Aikido, we don't have competition, but I actually think human beings are pretty competitive, even when they're outside a purely competitive thing.
There's no organized competition.
No, I totally agree. But I think that I think that's one reason why there's rank, or why people don't want rank. But I think that there are these layers, right? And people are like, oh, that person got second dan before I did, or this person's been first dan for 20 years. And I do think that also there is conflict in Aikido dojos. I mean, with other students.
I mean, yeah, there is conflict, there is competition, but that's not the point. The point is that you're trying to learn.
Go past it.
I had this patient once. He was totally stressed out. His neck, his shoulder all messed up. So we're working on it. It got better, right? And I go, oh, look, it feels pretty good. And then his smartwatch buzzed, and his whole body tensed up, and all the work we had done on his neck gone.
Yeah.
And I go, did you just tense up? And he goes, yeah. And we just spent an hour working on this thing. And so she like how easy it is for our nervous systems to go out of whack. And remember, primally, this is the way our nervous system was always been, but we would never be in prolonged stress.
It's like internet.
Yeah, you would go from stress to not stress,
Or
long periods of no stress, and then stress. But like our nervous system doesn't know the difference now, and so now it just stays in this prolonged, agitated state. And that's why when you go back to this idea of meditation, while you're meditating, you relax your tongue, and then your tongue actually is connected all the way down to your big toe. And then while you're relaxing and you're managing your breathing, all of disease comes from lack of oxygen. So you're breathing and you're relaxing, and you could feel it yourself really relax. Your nervous system can finally go, okay, and then turn off. But right now they're like, is there still a saber-toothed tiger out there? I think there's still a saber-toothed tiger out there. And then your nervous system goes out of whack, your vagus nerve gets activated, and then that's how disease comes in.
So this is kind of off the track, though. And I was thinking of this as we were talking. We mostly been talking about physical practices that might or might not be complementary. What about intellectual practices? Reading, studying. I mean, I know that like your office here at the dojo has got an incredible library. It was added to in part of Purist Sensei's library, and Purist Sensei was very intellectual. You write a blog every day. Does the act of intellectual discovery, learning, thinking complement Aikido?
Well, it does, because if I'm going to teach you this technique, I got to figure out how to verbalize it, how to get through to you, how to say it. Because remember, any ambiguousness, like one of the things I tell Ken not to say is, he says, get off the line of fire, get off the line of fire. And one time in one of the 2-minute techniques, someone commented, what does he mean by get off the line of fire? And I thought, oh, shoot, Western culture, guns.
Right.
This person maybe isn't from a Western country, so they don't understand that
terminology.
So you have to say, oh, get off the line of attack or something like that. And so when you're writing, you're trying to get an idea across, or you're trying to work out an idea, and then that complements your training, because that's what that means. And like, if you read some of my, I only write once a week for my blog, but like there's times when I take the word apart and I go, oh, it means this and this, or I say this can mean this, but also mean this,
right? Where
people can kind of go, oh, I get what you're saying. And then so by the process of studying and writing, doors are unlocked.
It's very interesting. I mean, all the Aikido teachers I've been around, you and Purist Sensei, are always very intellectual.
Well, Aikido is an intellectual martial art.
What do you mean by that?
If you're a person whose only goal in life is to destroy other people,
you're a pugilist.
Well, you're a pugilist, but you're not a very developed human being. And the reason why is that you think about this idea of ahimsa, right? Nonviolence. Why do we have to be violent towards others, or why do we want to be nonviolent? Well, when we study this idea of ahimsa, that every person suffers. So if every person suffers,
it's a Buddhist concept.
No, ahimsa is an Indian concept. That every person suffers, but it's also a Buddhist concept. Every person is suffering, including me and you.
Right.
If we both suffer and the whole world is suffering, when we do something bad, should the world destroy us
or heal us?
And then we say, no, we should. I want kindness, compassion, forgiveness.
Right.
So if I want kindness, compassion, and forgiveness, then I must give it. So then if you realize, like, oh man, every person's suffering. Oh, this guy in the bar that's trying to pick the fight with me, oh, he's suffering. And then you go, well, I'm just going to, gouge out his eyes. And then if you could take it a little bit farther, this person attacks you, you defend yourself in a way that doesn't harm you, it doesn't harm them. Once the adrenaline spikes and then hits the valley, that person will start cooling down.
Right.
And then you find out, oh, his mom just died. And then he just starts crying. And then you go, oh, and then the two of you can go have a meal and talk about it, and you could support that person. Or you could just gouge out that person's eyes. Not on my watch. And then what ends up happening is that you're on top of this person. You watch the UFC. It's ground and pound time. You're pounding on this person. The cops pull up. They go, "What are you doing?" And then that guy goes, "He's beating me up." And then you go, "Oh, no, no, no. That person picked a fight with me." And they go,
We didn't see it.
"There's no cameras,
Right.
no witnesses. Well, we're going to have to take you both to jail." And then while you sit in jail as a lawyer, all your clients left you, right? You couldn't pay your mortgage. So now you lose your house. Your girlfriend leaves you. And then they go, "You know what? Someone came forward. He did attack you first."
Late.
6 months later, and we come out with your new jail tat on your face, and you're going like, "Oh, well, I guess I'm okay now." But
You lost everything.
it took your life.
Yeah.
So when you think about this idea that everyone suffers, you have to be more of an intellectual person to realize, yes, others suffer just as I suffer. I do not suffer alone, and because I do not suffer alone, then I cannot hurt others. But if you think that you suffer alone, then you get to hurt anybody you want to. You got
To feel better.
right.
Yeah.
So like that's the thing is like you have to be a little bit more intelligent to understand this idea that Aikido is trying to teach you metaphorically through the movements.
It's wild, really. I mean, think about it. Because you go to class, teacher warms up, shows you a few techniques, you run around, do it, it ends, you clean, you go home. And maybe you don't think about any of that for a very long time.
Right. Until the thing,
Something happens.
and then you go, "Oh, I get it now." And then you understand why we don't just kick people in the nuts when they attack us. I mean, that's the most easiest thing. We don't just poke someone in the eye. We go, "Oh, yeah, I get it." And so when we think about complementary practices or cross training, I mean, you can. This is America or this is the Western world. You can do anything you want.
Right.
But if you look in Japan, most people do not. Because the thing is, it takes a lifetime to learn Aikido. I mean, I've been doing Aikido for 35 years, and I still go, just punch him in the face. I go, don't get mad. Don't attack this person. And I've been doing Aikido 35 years. I'm 6th-degree black belt. I teach of a school, and I have to tell myself, don't do it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, well, if I ingratiate myself by choking people out or kicking them in the nuts or knocking people out in my other complementary martial arts classes, how can I truly live the way of Aikido?
What are you gaining? You're losing.
Well, you're losing, but you can't switch your mindset.
Yeah.
So if you can't switch your mindset, you have to be careful. Like if you watch a lot of fighting videos, street fighting videos, all these other competition fighting videos, your mind starts to become that.
Yeah.
Remember, your eye and your brain
are connected.
Not that they're connected, but if your mind sees it,
you'll do it.
After a while, it thinks it's you.
Wow. Okay.
Your mind is so strong and vulnerable at the same time. They said if you listen to Drake for 500 hours, I think 300 or 500 hours,
you think you're Drake.
No, your mind thinks that Drake's your best friend. So if I'm watching
It's just the time commitment that changes your brain.
If I'm watching Hoist Gracie watching Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu fight, my mind will start to think that that's me. Right? If you watch all these street videos of people getting in fights and all these things, your mind after a while will think it's you. That's why when you do visualization, and they've done these tests where they hooked up, Olympic level athletes, and they had them visualize their event, the same muscles fire while they're visualizing it.
Yeah, I've read that.
So when you're watching these martial arts,
your body's mimicking it.
You might not know that your body's mimicking it. And then what are they? If we just took away the technique, what are they mimicking?
The feeling.
The aggression.
Yeah.
And so if you're trying to if you're like me,
you're going to be more aggressive.
Yes.
Subliminally.
Who's got too much, who's in aggression anonymous, and I'm trying to not be aggressive, but then all I do is watch these videos, I am keeping my mind in that state of mind. And so at any moment the dam could break, and then here I am being aggressive. So it's not that you should or shouldn't do other arts or complements. What is your goal?
And you need to be aware of the risks.
Yeah, but what's your goal? Is your goal to be a fighter? Then do those things.
Yeah.
If your goal is to really truly learn this beautiful art of Aikido, then you can't. But that's the hard part. It's like we always we do things without knowing that we're doing them, and then we realize like, oh, I've been just trying to be a better person and be more calm, but then I started doing Krav Maga and gouging people's eyes out, pretending to gouge out people's eyes in class. Oh, no wonder I can't let go of this aggressiveness.
So I want to circle back on one thing. Because we sort of talked about it, but I mean, in our school, Iaido it's not, there's fewer classes of Iaido and Aikido, but there's several a week. And I remember, for Sensei, like we've talked about this many times. Like I remember, well, many people, maybe like 80% back in the day when people were getting ready to get to be black belt, Free Sensei would be like, hey, you're going to do Iaido now, and didn't explain why. And you hear the stories, well, there's a lot of sword-based movement in Aikido, so if you learn a traditional Koryu sword school, you'll internalize that, and that will blend into your Aikido training. But I always wondered if it wasn't more like what you're talking about, that there's a mental aspect of the training. So like Eric was here on Thursday night and we trained together Iaido. And afterwards we were talking, he's like, God, I feel so mentally drained after an hour of Iaido. And I wonder, is that part of what our teacher was trying to like secretly get people to experience? What do you think?
No,
No.
I don't think so. I don't even know if it was that thought out, but one of the things that you're learning body control,
Right.
right?
Very precise.
But you're also learning how to issue power from your upper body to your lower body, or your lower body to your upper body, from side to side, left to right. And then you're learning how to use your body in a swordsmanship way. And then, one of the big things that I got from swordsmanship training is a really strong posture.
Yeah.
Yeah, like my posture was,
All posture.
I always get compliments on how good my posture is. And I go, it's not even something that I work at. And I don't know if that's from Aikido or from, training. But you also learn how to grip properly. You learn all these different things that you may not be learning in Aikido.
Or anywhere else.
Right. And then ideally at this school, Aikido is sword-based Aikido.
Right.
Supposedly, Osensei's was a sword-based Aikido as well. So these people who don't learn sword, are they learning the right Aikido the right way?
It's a question, right?
That's really, really difficult. But then, you got a life. You got a girlfriend or wife, a spouse.
Now you have
people, things to do, and you got to go to Iaido. You got to miss vacation. You got to do all these things so that you go to class, and then that's where, your training starts to, like, for lack of a better topic, it becomes cultish.
Yeah.
And but that's the thing, is like you have to ask yourself, what does my body need?
Mm-hmm.
What does my mind need? What do I need? And then you search for that complementary thing. And like I said, for me as an Aikidoist that's been doing Aikido over 35 years, the only things that I've come up with are swordsmanship, meditation, and yoga.
So maybe this is a good place to get near the end. I was watching this video. I forgot to send it to you, but it was amazing. Like 2-minute video of an interviewer talking to Michael Phelps about that dominating decade that he had. And they asked him, like, what distinguished you from everybody else? And he said, in that 8 or 9 year period, he said he never missed a single day of training. He said, I trained 365 days a year for like 9 years. As I was listening to that, I was like, he said, if you took a day off, it would take you 2 days to get back to where you were before the day you took off. But I wonder, is he really talking more about mental power in that? I don't know.
I don't know, because my personal opinion is that a person cannot hard train longer than 10 years. I really don't think it's good for your nervous system and always or your body to hard train for more than 10 years. I did it for 17. Ken did it for, no, he did it for like 15, 17 years. Because the thing is that, we talked about this in another podcast. David Goggins talking about special operatives. Their nervous system gets destroyed.
Yeah, they're overly stimulated.
And then because they're overly stimulated, when they get out, they have all these cortisol problems, and that's why they all get
pressure, hypertension.
Yeah, and heart disease and all these different things. So, as we close up here, we get towards the end, we want to try to find things which complement, right? Yeah, you could train, you could be consistent, you can train, you can do other martial arts, you can do all those things, but really it comes down to what is your goal, right? If your goal is to be a great fighter and all you want to do is fight people in the street, you could do Aikido and all these other things.
Right.
But if you're trying to learn how to master yourself physically and mentally, you don't need those other arts.
Yeah. I think that's a really good place. That's a good message to end on.
Okie dokie. Well, thank you for watching, and don't forget to like or subscribe to this podcast.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.